It's Sunday morning, and it is approximately 10 minutes to 2. I sort of lied because yesterday I said mentioned to you that I'd probably be waiting a week's time to describe to you a psychotherapist who should not have been a psychotherapist. It's the one I knew back at U of T, who was probably, I don't think he actually graduated elementary school. I really do think that. Instead, I just felt compelled to do this. As you can tell, I know the LCBO quite well. And I think I've mentioned in the past how marvelous and great the employees are. It's really up to, they are very lucky. LCBO is very lucky to have so many talented um, employees. The serious thing is, I keep running into pieces of, since I was a kid. The story I told you about Mrs. Ross is true. I keep getting just one after another. Would you know it, LCBO, this would happen to you. Now you keep in mind, most of the employees are excellent. 95, 96, 97%. But there are always who should be fired. It's the way it is. No one today in Ontario or Canada, but especially Ontario, are fired. When they behave in an ignorant way, then they should be fired. So this took place. I've included this in my site. My site is gregtroy.com, and you'll find it listed there. And I just felt like reading it. It's part of I'll read it this way. Absurdist fiction, this financial, fictional / non-fictional piece will be included in Endgame Proof Goes Rodney the Rat - Book 5. Our LCBO Creep, Fairview Mall, St. Catharines, by, this time, it's by me. They all are me, but this particular time I indicated that the story is me, Mr. Gregory Miller Troy, and me. So, Rodney the Rat asks, so, this is what this Timothy is speaking. He said, so this is what I emailed to old Ms. K. Way back then, not so much now. During the 70s and 80s, you usually called a woman Ms. So you would probably lose your testicles if you didn't obey. Anyway, it says, this is the note he sent to Ms. K. I received the LCBO card yesterday. Thank you. I do not know the monetary value of this card, but then again, I don't know the value of anything these days. Who does? And you look around us today, who knows anything? Now please pay attention, he says to him, or writes to him. When I was 42 years old, I had a terrible brain bleed that required 3 surgeries. While recovering from the first surgery, I found myself in the world of aphasia. The toughest challenge to overcome was developing proper speech. My speech is always going to be a little off, but you gotta keep it in mind. I didn't have one. And for a long time. Just a side, the reason why I speak, and I guess in a way I'm trying to educate people what happens when an aneurysm, brain aneurysm, starts to bleed. The reason why I can speak are a number of reasons. One, it has robbed a bit of my reading ability and writing ability. So afterwards, I'm not as brilliant or clever as I once was. Also, not to be pontificating, my brain is sort of larger and was able to accommodate the damage done. So let's get back to the real story. I will repeat it with this. When I was 42 years ago, I had a triple brain bleed that required 3 surgeries. While recovering from the first surgery, I found myself in the world of aphasia. The toughest challenge to overcome was developing proper speech. Sometimes you understand me, sometimes you're a little off. So it really bothers me. It really did at the time. It just really bothered me. When I tell someone, such as the Fairview LCBO manager, who I believed was the store manager. He didn't. I asked for one. Didn't know it was one. Lying today is endless. I have to tell you that I have a speech difficulty, and he deliberately. This is no kidding. This is fiction, but it's fiction or reality. That I have a speech difficulty, and he deliberately, amazingly, hangs up on the phone hangs up on me. That's crude. Things have changed so dramatically ever since the Second World War. Prior to, it was very different and polite. 80 million people, but before, they were okay. Such a crush behaved is absolutely disgusting. This happened in a privately owned store, and this is true. That same manager would be demoted, if not outright fired. I'm sure many of you there have had the same problem. You don't have the guts to call the manager or whoever, the CEO, and tell that person how obnoxious the employee is. I should add that most LCBO employees are excellent. They really are. I mean, really are. I mentioned, one second. Came from LCBO a short time ago. They're very pleasant. They don't hang up phones. When someone tells they have a speech problem, if you think about it, it's kind of bizarre. Would someone do that? I should add that most LCBO employees are excellent. I cannot say the same thing about the fellow or anyone who would tolerate such ugly behaviors. Yours, the guy who was made to feel like a slug. Back in BC, you would see a lot of slugs. There are all these things out west and in Ontario and the east. Just off the side, I have to say, I have more emotional relationship in Nova Scotia than here in Ontario. That as a Vancouverite, as a British Columbian, I have more in common with Nova Scotia. Continues, but this time a dialogue. Rodney, who by the way is quite brilliant, the brilliance of, well, anyone or a living thing. Rodney stopped licking the fur of his right shoulder. Sometimes you forget where you live, end quote. Well, Matthew frowned. What do you mean? In Canada, no delinquent employee is ever fired. Mention that. So weird. In fact, the only one ever demoted is the offender's unfortunate boss. Isn't that odd? The boss takes the problem of the employee and it's applied to him. It's just weird to me. Matthew nodded. Sure, I agree then. With the exception of hockey and divorces, that's true. We are quite the submissive society. We are, at least Ontario, are submissive. Your ability to invent things, to invest money in things, create things, are negligible. And what you primarily need, the minerals up north, and all these little bits and pieces, but you are not aggressive in thought. The British are, the Americans are, Australians are, but not Canada. We rely on our own land. It continues. And your writing skills were totally lacking, Matthew. Matthew is critical of Timothy with his Matthew's note to Ms. K. He responded, I was just really pissed off at being emotionally bruised again. It's too much. Just too much. Rodney. Creeps like that should not get away with such vulgar behavior. That is what ends what I've included in my site. But it is so true, you know. People get away with so much here. The level of lying and cheating and stuff. I swear to God, is it mid-April or end of April? You have to file your annual taxes. Do you know the level of lying and cheating? Oh, it's rather extremely high. Anyway, I just felt like reading that to you. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I miss Riley. Riley was, well, he's a bit of a cheat too, but then he was a dog. I could accept that, smile at that. It's hard for me to understand that from humans. So there's something too, as I mentioned a short time ago, how I relate more to those in Hamilton, not Hamilton, definitely not Hamilton, Halifax and Nova Scotia, having been born and raised in British Columbia, than Ontario. Has anyone ever told Ontarians you're rude? Continuously rude? Has anyone ever told you that? It's kind of true. Anyway, I will fulfill and we'll look at the psychotherapist who should not have graduated elementary school. Thanks for listening.